Hallo, welkom bij de On The Range podcast. Met Hogg Tactical en Kelley Defense. Hier zijn je gastheren, Rick Hogg en Mark Kelley.
On The Range podcast. On The Range.
Welcome, everybody, to OTR News here in the OTR universe. I am Mark Kelley. Wherever you are, thank you for making us part of your day. The Durham Report is out. John Durham, we're going to talk about that. But first, make sure you do us a favor. Go by the websites. Check them out, warhog.com, kelleydefense.com. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. While you're there, make sure you check out the crew. The OTR Patreon crew. You can join on the websites. You get exclusive access to our training videos and our industry partners, early access to calendars. So let's go ahead and jump into the story. The Durham Report's out. The Durham Report is out with a price tag over $6 million. 4 years. 4 years. John Durham was appointed by Bill Barr in 2019 to look at this, to investigate the intelligence that led to the investigation opened by the FBI called Crossfire Hurricane to investigate Russia collusion with the Trump campaign during his campaign when he won. Now, this has been going on for a while. It kind of comes in and out. At the time, though, nobody really had any problem with John Durham being appointed. He's a pit bull, honest guy, good investigator, great attorney. That was what we heard. Well, it came out. There's a couple of things that he was really looking at, and it was basically the beginning of the investigation. What information was used to launch it? That was a big piece of it. Second piece of it was, were all the normal protocols followed by the FBI that they would normally do in any other situation with a similar type of investigation? So I'm just going to read a few things of it. I'm not going to stick to it. It's a 317 page. I totally get geeked out on it and read it. Totally geeked out on it. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what I think is the most interesting point, and I'm going to talk about the DOJ. So anyway, right at the very beginning, this is what he is saying that he was supposed to do. He's supposed to find out, okay, quote, was there adequate predication for the FBI to open the Crossfire Hurricane investigation from its inception of July 31st, 2016, as a full Counterintelligence and Foreign Agent Registration Act investigation, given the requirements of the Attorney General's guidelines for the FBI domestic operations and FBI policies related to the use of the least intrusive investigation tools necessary. Now, this is a big piece of that. It's a big piece of that because some of this information led to American citizens being spied on American soil. He continues. Additionally, the FBI was consistent with its normal protocols. And lastly, did the FBI properly consider other highly significant intelligence it received at virtually the same time as the use of the predicate Crossfire Hurricane, but related to the Trump campaign that was purported to the Clinton campaign? In other words, similar information came in that was pointing towards the Clinton campaign doing things. Did they use the same type of investigation? Did they launch anything? Did they follow the same protocols that they followed when they were dealing with Trump? So you could see how it rolled over. Bill Barr wanted to know, hey, okay, let's see what information they had. Let's see if they followed the normal protocols. And did they treat the information coming in concerning the Clinton campaign the same way they did with the Trump campaign? Because at some point, the FBI indicates that it received information concerning Trump collusion. When they did, Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok of the FBI, one being the director, the other being the deputy director of counterintelligence, they immediately opened the investigation. Andrew McCabe, remember, he was fired for leaking to the press later, and Peter Strzok was fired later for having the affair with Lisa Page. Remember all those text messages came out back and forth talking about how much they hated Trump? And Durham even mentions that in his report, that at the very least, Strunk had very ill feelings towards the future president at the time. He continues. Once they received that information, this is what he's saying at that point was in the possession of the FBI. Quote, as set forth in greater detail from Section 4, before the initial receipt of the FBI headquarters of the information from Australia, which we were talking about, the July 31st information, concerning comments, and that came in on the 28th, comments reportedly made in a tavern on May 6, 2016 by George Papadopoulos, an unpaid foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign, the government possessed no verified intelligence reflecting that Trump or any Trump campaign was involved in a conspiracy or collaborative relationship with any officials from Russian government. So in other words, when they launched this campaign, from the information that they said they received on the 28th of July of 2016, when they launched that information or the investigation on the 31st, they had none, zero verified intelligence, zero. Indeed, based on the evidence gathered in multiple exhaustive and costly federal investigations, he's talking about his own investigation, including the instant investigation, neither the U.S. law enforcement nor the intelligence community appears to have had in their possession any actual evidence of collusion to launch the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Straight out of the report. Nothing. They had absolutely nothing. He said the investigation should have never been started. There was no evidence whatsoever. Durham even mentions that had they made a few phone calls, they would have learned right away that it was fake. If they'd done any investigation whatsoever, once they received that information on the 28th of July, instead of immediately 3 days later launching this huge investigation, if they had done any right then, before they launched this massive Crossfire Hurricane, they would have known that it was fake. Or they knew already, or they didn't care. In March of 2017, Strunk himself had some written documents that was released in a Freedom of Information Act that was not declassified. Even in his own writings, he indicates that they had no evidence and not done one interview about any of the information they received prior to launching this investigation. By the way, Durham interviewed those folks that they said they got this information from, and they said they had nothing. It was all speculative. It's amazing. Amazing. Everything that occurred or found after that, if there's no basis to it and they knew it was fake, it would have been fruit from a poisonous tree. Meaning, if the information that launched the investigation is not good, and then you do these FISA warrants, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, you do these FISA warrants on Americans, American soil, that's bad information because the original source information was fake. It was made up, wasn't verified. So even if you had found something after the fact, it would have been bad evidence. He does get into why he thinks that they didn't act this way with the Clinton Foundation or a Clinton campaign. And here's what he says. These examples, talking about evidence that came in about Clinton, are markedly different from the FBI's action with respect to the other significant intelligence it received from a trusted foreign source pointing to a Clinton campaign plan to vilify Trump by tying him with Vladimir Putin so as to divert attention from her own concerns relating her private email server. Remember, right before the campaign, she got in trouble for her server and all the private, the secret information when she was Secretary of State that was on her private email server. She's trying to divert. That's what this plan's all about, to divert the attention off of her and what she did wrong and make a bigger story out of what Trump was supposedly doing wrong to get attention off of her. This so-called plan, the Clinton plan, was launched to smear Donald Trump. And this was all right in there, according to declassified materials later in the investigation. And don't forget, shortly thereafter, after that, on July 27th, when they supposedly launched this investigation, or just prior to, there was a meeting with Loretta Lynch, the AG at the time, the attorney general at the time, with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. Remember that? They have video of her getting in his plane to have a meeting. And then on July 27th, the very next day, that's when all those events supposedly occurred. Now, listen, opposition research happens in politics. It's a common practice. If there's something that you feel is beneficial to you to show what someone else did was bad, they do it all the time in politics. It's a dirty bathtub politics, isn't it? But hey, that's kind of what you sign up for. But usually that information that is used, opposition information, is based on fact. Not rumors used as fact, especially to launch a major investigation. He continues, unlike the FBI's opening of the full investigation of unknown members of the Trump campaign. That's another thing. They never mentioned anybody. On uncorroborated information in this separate matter involving a purported Clinton campaign, the FBI never opened any type of inquiry, issued any tasks, employed or put into force any analytical personnel, or produced any analytica products in connection with this information, meaning they did nothing. They got information saying that she was making this up and that they were going to launch it. And they did nothing. They knew about it. You don't think Loretta Lynch knew about it then? If Loretta Lynch knew about it after talking to Bill Clinton, who else do you think knew it? President Barack Obama. You think she would have held that from him? Well, there's some pieces about that here earlier too. And this is the big bombshell, I think. The lack of action was despite the fact that the significance of the Clinton plan intelligence was such that it prompted a director of the CIA to brief the president. There you have it. The information that they had that the Clintons were going to launch this falsified plan to smear Donald Trump got into the hands of the CIA, and the information was so good, they believed it, that it was true. It was so good that they actually briefed the president of the United States. Also in that meeting, he continues, the president, the vice president, attorney general, Loretta Lynch, director of the FBI, and other senior government officials about the content within days of its receipt. It was also enough importance for the CIA to send formal written referendum to Director Comey and the deputy assistant of the FBI counterintelligence division, Peter Strzok. So he knew it too. So in other words, they found out that they were going to do this plan and they helped. The FBI helped. The whole FBI was activated. That meeting was August 3rd of 2016. 5 days after they knew that they were going to launch it. It's amazing. So Obama's intelligence community had information that the Clinton campaign was going to do this. They knew they were going to do it. They allowed these FISA warrants to go in after that. Those FISA warrants were applied for almost immediately after this investigation started. Before they didn't even, and they already admitted that they didn't interview anybody. So they were spying on American citizens. American citizens on American soil using that Foreign Intelligence Security Act through FISA warrants. McCabe and Strzok immediately launched that investigation once they got that information, even though they knew prior to that was fake. And they were shutting down investigations about Hillary Clinton's campaign at the same time. This is dramatically different. You hear people talk about Watergate. This is dramatically different. Dramatically different the way they were treating each other. The handwritten note from the director of the CIA collected during that meeting proves that it was all true. This is worse than Watergate. I don't want to hear any Watergate. You know what Nixon did during that? He got a couple guys to do his bidding for him, breaking into the Watergate Hotel on his opposition's campaign office. This is activating the entire FBI and community intelligence groups of the active party's president that was in power. Complete activation. Does that sound like collusion to you? Sounds like collusion to me.
On the Range Podcast.
Thank you for joining us today in the OTR universe. The show continues exclusively for our OTR crew members. On the OTR crew membership page, go to warhog.com, kellydefense.com to become a member today.